Everybody get foolish. Throw your hands in the air, let's do this. All around the globe going stupid. Bass on and you gotta get muted.
The City of Edmonton is considering changes to their zoning bylaw to spur infill development for a specific segment called the missing middle. It's probably the hottest topic amongst planning nerds like me in the Edmonton area right now. Everyone from Edmonton's super charismatic mayor to my parents are talking about it, and the city did just receive national attention for an architectural competition that they hosted, focused on solving the issue of the missing middle. I even submitted a design to the competition that was so poorly received that I didn't get a +1 to the award ceremony. My parents were still proud though. The missing middle follows the same plot as Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Housing in Edmonton has two predominant forms, high-rises and individual houses. There's very little in between, like row housing and low-rise apartments. Unlike in the fairy tale, though, the missing middle isn't porridge at the perfect temperature for eating or a perfectly comfortable bed for sleeping, but it does provide a style of housing that helps battle the issue of housing affordability. Back to Edmonton's proposed changes, and I won't get into them too much, but basically the city wants to incentivize infill development for the missing middle typology by reducing and simplifying the regulatory hurdles in doing so. This is super fantastic and shows that the city is serious about stimulating infill development and finding solutions for the affordability issue. Regulations are only one of the hurdles for missing middle development, though. Development's fairly complicated, more so in a larger city like Edmonton. Even before we get into the development regulations, there are hurdles to clear. The first is acquiring the land. So let's imagine a scenario together. Let's say that you found a piece of land for sale that is perfect for infill of the missing middle variety. It has the new zoning rules already applied that allows for higher density, it's in an area suitable for infill, and it's large enough to accommodate the additional density. You approach the owner or broker to negotiate a deal and are presented with a very high asking price. Even though the existing house on the property looks ready to collapse on itself and the yard resembles something out of a dystopian movie, you're not paying for what's currently there. You're paying for the potential. Realtors setting asking prices, they're not idiots, and their job is to get the best deal for their clients. So that's why on sales signs sometimes you'll see things like approved for 15 units, and the price of the land reflects that maximum instead of what currently exists. It's the same as sports franchises handing out huge money in term on contracts to young players that don't have a long track record of success yet. They're paying for what the player might become instead of what he or she already is. Heck, even the city's infill design competition required that submissions consider a market land price in their design analysis based on future development potential, even though the competition focused on designing an affordable missing middle development. Land price is a huge factor in housing affordability, which is why cheaper land at the periphery of cities continue to be developed at a way faster rate than in established neighborhoods, especially in a place like Edmonton that can grow outward forever because there isn't a physical boundary like mountains or oceans or other cities nearby, so Edmonton just keeps growing outwards. So before moving on to the second hurdle, I think it's important to state the obvious. Developers like to make money, and all costs associated with the project are passed along to the end user. In this case, that's the home buyer. So to illustrate this, I'll keep a running tally of costs and their impact to the home buyer in the upper right corner. So the second hurdle is policy, but it goes beyond simply planning policy. There's a lot of costs that are a little bit more hidden. First, the application fees to rezone and develop. There are also supporting reports like environmental site assessments, transportation impact assessments, servicing studies, geotechnical reports, all of which are required to be produced by professionals to support an application to rezone or develop. Consulting costs to produce designs, conduct public engagements, and of course negotiate conditions with the municipality all add up. Finally, levies and security deposits on things like infrastructure and landscaping round out the costs, all of which are passed on to the home buyer. How long processes take is also important. Things like taxes, insurance, and interest on loans used to finance any part of the costs all accumulate over time. So this is a big reason why development processes matter to developers and why they seem to rush through them. These are all costs associated with putting together an application to submit to the city for review. So you can see the house price starting to escalate even before we reach the third hurdle. The timing of these payments vary. Some are paid at the time of application, some are paid at the time of approval, but all of them are included before we even get to actual construction. The third hurdle, the development process. This is what Edmonton's doing with their proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw, trying to remove some of the complexities and regulatory hurdles to spur infill. Like I said, the time everything takes affects some of the costs, like taxes, insurance, and loan interest, so it's good that the city is working towards reducing some of that time. Of course, you remember that some of these processes are regulated by the Municipal Government Act, so things like review times, approval procedures through council, and of course the amount of public engagement required are the large ones that affect the time of this process. Beyond that, municipalities set their own review times based on workloads and complexities, so in Edmonton, in order to rezone land and get an approved development permit for the example I've been running, the minimum duration in my experience is about 6 months. The time that everything naturally takes once submitted to the municipality is probably the leading cause of frustration I've heard from developers, and it's something that the City of Edmonton is actively trying to change. Good for them, but it's only one of the hurdles stifling missing middle development, and so help you God if a group of residents don't like what you're proposing. Add in the fourth hurdle, construction costs, and a profit for developers, and you can start to see what has caused the lack of affordable housing in established neighborhoods in Edmonton. The reasons why the missing middle exists are way more complicated than simply policy and process, so while I do applaud the city for trying to reduce those hurdles, they're just a few small steps. You can see that land price and construction costs are the highest contributors to housing prices, and with both of them being market-driven, how much can the city really affect them? And if even the city is selling its land for market value, as we saw in the missing middle design competition, how does it really expect other landowners to act differently to get more missing middle development? This has been Ryan with Heinz Consulting. Thanks for watching.
That's what we came for.